I want to talk to some people who may be able to help us keep Holly out of jail.
You realize, of course, that I have grown accustomed to this way of living. I'm going to insist on it from now on.
Fine.
I thought we would take a walk through Central Park after breakfast.
Good, that doesn't sound too expensive.
And then I thought we would do a little shopping on Fifth Avenue.
How little?
Oh, 1 or 2 cats.
Oh, great. Okay.
Good.
Hello? Yes, put it through. It's an emergency call from Port Charles.
Who could it be?
Could be one of my patients. What? When? What about Jason? What about the baby? Was he with her? Thank God.
Alan,
How is she?
what happened?
Susan's been in an accident, a bad one. She's in surgery now.
What else?
That's about it. She drove into the wall of a building down on the waterfront. What could she have been doing down on the waterfront?
There are lots of bars down on the waterfront.
She doesn't have to go down to the waterfront to get drunk.
Any port in the storm.
I guess so. They said that the alcohol content in her blood when they found her was so high.
Well, that stands to reason. I mean, she was smashed when we saw her in the hospital.
Apparently there was a terrible scene after we left. She got into a fight with Steve.
Steve? Why Steve?
I don't know. She was so drunk she couldn't see straight. She was lashing out at anybody, and Steve just happened by.
But Jason's all right.
As far as I know. Heather took him to her mother, and then Susan apparently went off on her own.
Oh, thank God she didn't have him with her.
Thank God. If anything would have happened to that little boy, I never would have forgiven myself.
Or Susan.
Well, we better get moving.
For what?
To go home, of course.
Why?
What do you mean, why? I've got to get back home.
There isn't anything you can do back there.
What about Jason?
Well, I'm sure that he's probably being taken care of by Alice.
Oh, she's probably a total wreck.
Well, then Heather has the baby. He's fine, I'm sure.
There's more to it than that.
Alan, there isn't anything anyone can do back there.
I gotta go. I gotta go, Monica. I've got to be close to her. I've got to be there. She's the mother of my child, Monica. That's it.
But you can't help her.
What would you do? That's what I thought. Look, you stay here. You do whatever you want. I'm going to take the first plane back to Port Charles. Are you coming with me?
What's it look like?
Look, you don't have to.
I know that.
Really, Monica, I'll be...
Alan, I've been through this nightmare with you so far. I'm not backing out now.
Monica. Thank you.
Heart stabilized. No.
Well, look who's here.
She came straight from the airport. How is she?
Not good. You heard about the operation.
Downstairs. What about Jason?
Oh, he's with my neighbor. He's just fine.
Listen, I appreciate very much everything you've done. Thank you. How did it happen?
Susan was drinking.
Well, at least that was part of it.
What do you mean? There was more?
Well, I think something happened to upset Susan. When she left here yesterday, she was drunk. But she wasn't crazy enough to go drive into a wall. Somewhere between the hospital and the time she had her accident, I think somehow she went over the edge or was pushed.
What are you saying?
That if I wanted to know the real reason she got into that accident, I'd look to the last person she saw.
Who was that?
I think it Scott?
What did you do to her?
What are you talking about?
Take a wild guess.
Why didn't you stop her?
What did you do? Take an ad out in the paper?
I just want to see justice done, Counselor.
You could have sobered her up. Why did you let her drive off dead drunk?
She's a grown woman. I can't tell her what to do.
Of course you can when she's not capable of making a decision for herself.
Well, I had no idea she was going to drive into a wall.
Are you blind as well as stupid?
Now, wait a minute. Let me say
Sure,
something.
I got a minute. I got more than a minute. I got all the time in the world. That's more than I can say for Susan. She's not going to be that lucky, thanks to you.
May, now let me say
Will
something,
you stop
okay?
this? Now, my niece is in there dying, and all any of you can do is stand around blaming everybody else for her accident? I mean, just where were any of you when she needed you? I'm sorry, it's uncalled for.
But not untrue, Alice.
It's just that if we all care for Susan, why can't you allow Scotty his right, too?
Thank you, Alice. I don't know how this whole thing got started, but I care about Susan. And I would have done anything to prevent that accident.
I know that.
You may just get the chance to prove it.
Great.
Captain Ramsey's looking for you.
What?
He wants to know what really happened between you and Susan in your office.
Not exactly what you would call a shopping spree on Fifth Avenue, is it?
I'm not complaining.
I owe you one.
Just one.
Just one. I know.
It's so awful.
Mother, are you all right?
Heaven, why don't you take her home?
Right away.
See, you go home with her. I will check with you later to make sure Jason's all right.
We'll be there.
Alan.
Hi, we heard you were back.
How's Susan?
Hanging on.
Is there anything we can do?
Keep your son away from me.
What'd Scotty do?
Oh, Scotty, well, Susan went to Scotty's office just before the accident.
And?
She was drunk. He let her go away. He let her drive off. She couldn't even stand up. He let her drive away.
I didn't realize that.
I didn't either until Heather told me. Heather also insinuated that something must have happened in Scotty's office to cause Susan to do that.
No, wait a minute, I'm confused.
Welcome to the club.
Well, no. Now, was it an accident because of drunk driving, or was it an attempted suicide? Which?
There's only one person who can answer that question.
Well, the pattern, at least, is clear.
Well, explain it to me, will you?
Susan was upset. She went to see Alan, and Alan obviously rejected her.
I had no choice.
Maybe not, but that must have made her even more upset. Then she went to see Scotty, and Scotty turned her away as well.
Or something.
Look, Susan came here to see you, right?
Briefly?
Well, couldn't you see that she'd been drinking? Didn't you suspect that she was a danger to herself and others?
I knew she'd been drinking, but I had seen her far worse than that.
So have I, Lee.
Look, Alan, according to the alcoholic content that was in her blood when she was admitted here, she must have had then an awful lot to drink after she left you and before she got to Scotty's office.
What do we do now? Who's going to protect Susan's interests? You're the only one that I trust.
Well, of course, I can't handle that. I'll try to find out as much as I can about the accident for you, then.
I appreciate that. When will you start?
Well, I'm not sure, but there is one question that must be addressed, and soon, Alan. What's going to happen to Jason if Susan dies?
What's going on?
What do you mean?
But he told her to let Susan go?
He told Laura not to worry about it.
He told you that?
Well, these were Laura's words, but Scotty admitted it. He said that he knew that Susan had been drinking for months, but she hadn't been in trouble before.
I wouldn't say that.
Did Scotty say that anything happened in the office that could have triggered the accident?
No.
Don't forget, it was Heather who started that rumor, Alan. She suggested that Susan must have been driven to such a state that she was incapable of driving, let alone doing anything else. Of course, we all know that Heather is hardly a reliable witness.
So we're right back where we started from.
I don't know who to believe.
Well, the only person who can tell us the real reason for the accident is the woman who was involved. And until Susan can talk, if she ever can, we've just got to sit and wait. Excuse me.
Sit and wait? What if she doesn't make it? What if she doesn't make it? Who's going to look after Jason?
Alan, Jason has a ready-made family all waiting for him if Susan doesn't make it.
You talking about Alice?
And dear cousin Heather, who was bending over backwards to be nominated Surrogate Mother of the Year, if she takes as good a care of Jason as she says she does, he is in excellent hands.
Somehow that's no consolation.
It wasn't meant to be. Rick? Rick, any news about Susan?
I'm just on my way to find out.
Dr. Dante, Dr. Whipper, it's Miss Moore. She's fibrillating.
They've got to save her. But Jason's sake, they've got to save her.